Hey everyone, welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is Paarth Dhar. Parth, welcome on the show.
Thanks, Nitin. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. I've seen quite a few of your older episodes. Excited about this chat.
Glad to have you here. Let's start with who is Parth?
Wow. Well, that's a profound question. And you know how in India they say, right? Like, "Subhe subhe, you're asking such a deep question," and like, yeah. Um, well, obviously, this is something that evolves and a person
Mhm.
kind of unravels over time. I've thought about this and I've looked at a certain aspect that has started applying to me quite a bit. And I think it's generally true for a lot of entrepreneurs. Um, I've sort of started seeing that I am becoming a rational optimist.
Mhm.
So that's a complex word, but it stems from, I think, one, obviously my educational background. So I've been an engineer. Logical thinking is obviously
Mhm.
imperative when it comes to building businesses or in general in life. But at the extreme end of it, when a person starts becoming too rational, um, people often obviously misinterpret, and like at the extreme end, it starts becoming negative. It
Mhm.
starts becoming uh, too pessimistic
Mhm.
at the end of the day, right? And that's where the optimism kicks in. So you necessarily, as an entrepreneur, need to be an optimist, right?
True.
Um, Find that one reason for why it will work instead of the thousands of why it
Mhm.
won't, right? And the extreme end of that is when you become just extremely passionate and emotional about everything and not think it through. And that's how the rationalism, and that's when actually the rationalism has to kick in. And this sort of yin and yang is
Mhm.
what I've been trying to strike a balance about. And as I said, it's not just me. I think a lot of entrepreneurs actually go through that. So that's an interesting thing that I recently learned about myself.
That's beautiful. I love the way you put it. You know, the yin and yang is that's exactly
Yeah,
what was going through as I was trying to visualize that conflict that is so internal, right? But we all share it. So,
is and and no entrepreneur can deny that, right? You're going through 10,000 emotions in a day in over a period of time, and you need to constantly balance this. So yeah.
true. So, Parth, now that we know a little about you, let's play a game. I'm going to talk
Okay.
about certain themes that impact us as a community and would love your one word response whether these are underrated or overrated.
Okay. No
Right.
justification,
No
just a one
justification.
word.
Yep. All right, let's
All
do
right.
this.
Sure.
Let's start with stock market prices,
Underrated.
startup valuations,
Overrated.
DEI,
Underrated.
metaverse,
Oh, underrated for sure.
the great resignation.
Overrated.
Okay. What about cash?
Overrated.
Okay. Stakeholder capitalism.
Underrated.
Okay. Real estate prices.
I'd say overrated.
Okay. Inflation.
Underrated.
Okay. What about crypto?
Underrated.
NFT?
I'd say overrated for now.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for playing along
Yeah.
with me.
I think a lot of these things, when you put yourself on a spot, you realize what your intuitive emotion or reaction is
Yes.
to them. So,
Yeah, that I mean you got it, right? That's the thing that we get impacted by these things, but
yeah,
when someone just kind of posits these to you,
yeah,
you yourself realize where your bias is, good or bad, right? That's just what you've been thinking about it, but not feeling it as much.
true, true.
All right, let's get back to something more personal, more exciting. Tell us about these
Uh,
street games.
Oh wow. All right. So these street games is actually a part of what we're building. So one
Hmm.
piece of the puzzle, one vertical of the entire super app that we're
Yeah.
building. We like to think of it in probably just one line is a digital playground for stock enthusiasts.
Hmm.
So if you remember going back, to a playground for the first time and learning a sport, right? You learned something via doing two three things, right? Learning through trial and error, actually playing the game and then understanding more about it. Learning through the conventional wisdom of, say, a coach, right? Someone who's actually just giving to you in theory. And third, learning from your peers. What are you doing?
Hmm.
How does a certain guy play a, guy or girl play a game, right? And that's what we're trying to recreate with these street games. The trial and error, the practical part of it is these street games,
Hmm.
which are essentially games for the stock markets. So these are paper trading games, as we've
Hmm.
discussed numerous times, where users, without having to put money in the stock markets and buying and selling shares, actually just create virtual portfolios and see how they perform. And they do this by challenging other people to do this as well and make it competitive and not boring in the entire process,
Nice.
right? What we're now, and that's the games part of it, these street games.
Hmm.
What we're now coming up with is a content vertical, which is where the coach theory comes in,
Hmm.
and a community vertical, which is where the social learning and investing portion of it comes in, right?
Nice.
What are other people doing? What are other people investing in? How can I get in, and kind of emulate them? We've done one of them, and that's our thesis around a practical learning platform rather than just having to watch YouTube videos and
Right.
gather information from the internet. So that's what D Street Games is all about. We're rebranding to, as I said, creating a super app out of
Hmm.
that. Um, it'll be out in probably a couple of more weeks, and
Yeah.
we'll definitely let everyone know.
That's awesome. I love the I love the concept. I love this whole experiential learning aspect to it. And then also having the
Yeah.
community where you have a little bit of competitive spirit, but also a group that learns with you, along you.
Yeah.
Super exciting. So,
Perfect. Yeah.
makes me want to think, why do this and why now?
All right, so we've launched in India, and India's going through this huge change when it comes to some of the macros. Um, Not a lot of people in India invest. First of all, I think for
Hmm.
the viewers who are listening in, about 4% of our entire population invests in the market, right? A little more than that, significantly more than that, has money to invest in, but still doesn't because of various reasons, starting from apprehension of losing it early
Hmm.
on, right? India is not a particularly rich country. Two, obviously not having content in the form that they're looking for, and third, not having enough research ideas or not having the time to research ideas
Right.
around this, right? And the good part is that a lot of people in India are connected now through mobile internet. We have, I think, close to more than 500 million users on mobile
Hmm.
internet,
Right.
and they do either of these two, three things very well and in abundance. They content consume a lot. They
Right.
talk to each other a lot,
Hmm.
and they play games, and that actually gets captured in all three portions of what we are trying to achieve.
Right.
We thought that if there's this apprehension of trying it out, we might as well capture it in a way in which they are anyway meaningfully engaging
Hmm.
in other apps or in other forms, and trying to get finance into their daily habits via these three routes. So that definitely comes from the fact that one, there are underlying changes like these macros changing. Two, a lot of people have gained interest in the stock markets, especially after COVID.
Hmm.
It saw a huge spike in the number of demat accounts and plus just general queries. And what's a tertiary number that I see is the rise of the number of influencers that have come up talking about personal finance and stock market
True.
investing so much. India's time has come as far as this market is concerned. and we want to be there, affecting people's life in being able to do so.
I love those macro factors, right? Those are all kind
Yeah,
of showing those trends where you said internet and smartphone penetration, just the sheer interest, but also, yeah, the COVID pandemic shifted people's mindset towards what can I do to secure my personal financial stability. And the stock market
yeah.
has a big role to play in that, as we've seen in the global markets. So, as you kind of conceptualize this and work on other pieces of this super app, what is the size and scale of your operations now, and what are you projecting over the next 6 to 12 months?
Also, we generally don't talk about numbers, across public platforms,
Hmm.
but and personally, obviously, I've spoken to you about
Sure.
this a lot, where we've been growing almost 80%, 90% month on month since the launch, 7 to 8 months back. We have way north of 100,000 users on the platform actively using the app and the game. We obviously have collaborated with other partners through which our reach is much more than the number of users just on the platform. But what I really like about what we've been doing and that has come as a feedback is the general impact that it has had, right?
Yeah.
So the kind of communities and the kind of TG, to be specific,
Hmm.
that we've reached out, we've seen a diverse group on the platform. People who actually are traders in real life already, using the platform as kind of your rough notebook in which you're placing your virtual trades, and
Nice.
that's just amazing. So where the cognitive level of being able to understand is just extremely high.
Hmm.
To someone that I had interviewed just a few months back, who had lost a small amount of money early on, and then just given up on investing and trading, and then said that I'm trying out my trades now, and this seems to be a good way to do it. That was definitely something that uh, you know uh, gets us going in general
Yeah.
every day. And then the third, where there was this girl from a tier 2 3 town,
Hmm.
where uh, you would have never thought that someone like that would have an interest, or at least take any action with regards to investing, in India especially. And she said that I play every day, and we saw that as well. She was playing every day, but had absolutely no clue about this, right? And she said that I then go back, look at all of the definitions, what each and everything means, and then get better at it. We saw her actually winning
Awesome.
games like against 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people.
Wow.
And that's where we realized, I think, early on, obviously numbers are rising, they're small, we're reaching a certain scale, but these early indicators of impact is something that truly drives the team, drives us in general, and we hope that we can just replicate this at scale as well. So
I love those use cases and those examples. Those stories are amazing, right? One, you're hitting a cross section of users, right from the first one you mentioned is truly amazing to me, that an experienced trader is coming into the platform just to even track their trades, and yeah, this person from a tier 3 city having access, having exposure, and then kind of going back and figuring out, that's for someone like me, show me why I should do this, and then I'll go
yeah,
learn the theory behind it, right? So
yeah.
that makes a lot of sense to me. So as you look at scaling, growing, partnering, and going into these smaller cities where stock markets and D Street is just kind of a thing they've never even heard of, what kind of challenges are, or I would say, what's the biggest challenge you're facing?
Right. So I think the biggest challenge that is we do generally face, and I've kind of realized that it is common across certain platform
Hmm.
startups, where you have 2 to 3 products or services centered around, say, for example, a consumer. is, I think, the challenge of being misunderstood. Wherein, say, for example, we can very easily be thought of as just a gaming app for the
True.
stock market, which we are not. As an entrepreneur, obviously, it's in your head, you're playing it out, you're telling yourself, no, why don't you wait? It's going to happen. One more month, two more months,
Right.
three more months. But generally, I think convincing people around or having or changing that perception actually takes time. And I think we've realized that we're not alone. It could have been Jeff Bezos when
Yeah.
people told him that you're running an online bookstore.
Hmm.
It it could have been Flipkart over here. It could have been, say, for example, Zomato over here, just being a restaurant
Hmm.
menu scanning app, right? But all of these businesses and all of these startups and entrepreneurs have faced that and overcome that. So I think that's the biggest challenge right now, because the other two verticals that, as I clearly said about, are not there. They're going to get launched in a couple of months, and till now, I think that's been the biggest challenge. I think scaling, etc., is something that we are fairly comfortable with. Product, something that we are fairly comfortable with. But this definitely does stand out.
I think, from where I see it, it's a great challenge to have. Right?
Yeah.
Uh, so it keeps you focused, if nothing else.
Yeah.
On the flip side of the challenge, what's the most exciting opportunity you're targeting?
Oh, that has to be that number.
Yeah.
That has to be going after the 96% for whom whatever you create, in terms of being able to buy or sell stocks, is not going to work.
Right.
That 96%, that 95%, whatever that number is right now, has definite challenges in just being able to do that activity, not knowing how to do that activity, right?
True.
And getting them meaningfully engaged. Again, I say meaningfully engaged in a manner, is very difficult. Therein lies the biggest opportunity for anyone who's building in this space. And I think that's what I'm most stoked about, because most of investment tech startups and initiatives have been focusing on that small set of customers that already know how to invest and how to make investing better for them, like create more features, you know, advanced algorithms to be deployed and monitored, right? But this is a completely different game. This is unlocking a new audience for the entire industry, and that's what drives me personally and everyone on the team, frankly
Yeah.
speaking.
I agree. I mean, it's a huge opportunity, and like you said, the others are going for those tweaks and incremental value and UI and
Yeah.
UX changes, which is good to have. They're already on the platform, showing them some value and kind of, but you're just kind of moving the existing market share around, whereas you're just getting a whole net new influx into the market, and you'll be the first touch point for them.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Path, as you look back in the rearview mirror, is there, whether it's your journey with D Street or even before that, is there a lesson learned that became, something that essentially didn't work out the way you had expected, but ended up becoming a lesson? Is there is there one or maybe two examples you would like to share?
Oh yeah, definitely yes. I've been an entrepreneur before. Unfortunately, that company didn't scale to the size of becoming a venture, something that would rapidly scale. It was a business at that point in time, operationally profitable as well, but not to the extent as all tech entrepreneurs wish it to be, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Biggest hardest lesson that I took from there was the fact that, and it has made me like, human beings are not meant to do multiple things or multitask and then do each of these tasks to perfection.
True.
As a startup and as an early stage entrepreneur, you have very limited bandwidth and 10,000 things going wrong in one direction, right? So if you take up two to three directions at one time, it's almost impossible to do justice to all three. And it's not just the resources, not just the execution team that you have around you, but your own mental bandwidth is
True.
something which is very real. And you need to crack that. And there's this famous example, right? What people say, that just be something for someone first
Yes.
before actually going on to be everything for
Everything for
someone,
everyone. Yeah.
or like, I mean, everything for everyone is something that everyone's
Impossible.
striving to be. But even in the middle, something for some, everyone, or everything for
Even
someone
that's tough. Yeah.
is absolutely impossible to achieve early on. So find that one use case, and that's where you must have realized that there are three things to do.
Hmm.
In the D Street family, we've started with just one, which is games.
Yes.
Scaled it to about 200,000 plus users now, to a scale which is decent enough, to get early markers, early indicators of product market fit, and then go in with the other two verticals.
That's a great lesson, and thanks for sharing. I mean, thanks for being candid and transparent. It's not always easy to open up and talk about things that did not work out or didn't scale
Yeah.
to your expectations. So, thank you. I really appreciate it. Let's move to my favorite part of the show, which is one-line life lessons, where you share five of these one-line life lessons with us. And these are not quotes, as you know, these are just lessons that have come to define you over time. And would love to hear what you have to share.
Five, five are obviously. I mean, as an individual, everyone has, I think, quite a bunch of them. I do have a few close to my heart,
Hmm.
whether it being the entrepreneurial journey, or whether it being, my funda of how I live life. I think the first one, I think I can do a couple or three. The first one that is something that came as a realization in the entrepreneurial journey about all of us, when I saw the team slogging every day
Hmm.
with regards to a product release, or an app change or something like that. And I had shared this with the group as a realization, as well as the team, and as well as investors in general, is that as entrepreneurs, or as an entrepreneurial team, we die every day to create something that lives on forever.
I love that.
Like, you're putting your heart and soul, and nights that you might have just gone out, or been with family, and inside you're just dying, each day, each week, to create this piece of something that lives beyond, that's much much bigger than you,
Hmm.
probably will live beyond your lifespan as well. And most entrepreneurs have done that. Um, and this beautiful, ironical statement is, it just captures our reality, right?
I love it.
um, yeah, so that was definitely one, from the entrepreneurial journey. Second, as well, I think, from the entrepreneurial journey, something that I read in, it was Ben Horowitz, A16Z. I think he
Hmm.
had come up with an article, in general, as an observation for his companies, and I realized how true it is, and most entrepreneurs will. It just said nobody cares,
Yes.
right, on the title, right?
Hmm.
And I keep reminding this to myself when things are going wrong, because that's exactly what he described.
Yeah.
Every entrepreneur would have just related so much to that article, that when things are going wrong, and most of the times they are,
They
in
will.
some
Yeah.
way,
Yes.
in some way or the other, the magnitude differs, that's all. That there's no way that nothing is going wrong. It always is, but the magnitude differs.
Yeah.
um, as an entrepreneur, you're obviously a stakeholder. I mean, your stakeholders are three-way: obviously your own team,
Right.
your investors, and your customers.
Hmm.
And if something's going wrong in your life or with the company, they will not care.
True.
I've realized this not to be true of one of these stakeholders,
Hmm.
which is the team, where I have now started realizing that they're becoming more and more empathetic in the startup journey
Hmm.
themselves, because of how startups have matured, how they've seen startup stories evolve, how they've seen entrepreneurs. especially for my team. I can definitely say that. But general rule of thumb, no one's gonna care. So you better not waste time in explaining and saying why you're right. I mean why you're helpless,
True.
but rather find out a solution to it, and just get going. So that's again something which is just so. Um, it's a hard reality for an entrepreneur for sure.
True. I do want to
Um,
acknowledge your team. You mentioned that the team is kind of coming around and becoming a true team. It's not easy. Right? It's not easy for, I mean, if you think about it, it's just a job for them, and you're the entrepreneur who's kind of out there trying to realize this dream. But when you have that kind of team that understands and is on the same page and is on the same ship as you are,
hmm.
it's so awesome.
Is, and I think we've evolved as
Mhm.
startups in the startup ecosystem as well all over the globe, where entrepreneurs do make them, when it comes to the early team,
Yeah.
part of the journey as far as having a stake in the company,
Right.
ESOPs, etc. are concerned, and that really does make them feel part of the journey rather
It
than
does.
just saying,
Yes.
because then our outcomes are aligned with theirs at the
Hmm.
end of the day.
Right.
And I think that's where I think that is something that I don't take at face value. But in general, if it is just someone who has an employee kind of a relationship with
Hmm.
you, then that person will definitely not care.
Yes.
Yeah. So that definitely was one. And I think one in general, so I'll do one in general, which I generally I generally, kind of believe in. It's not very logical, but then again, um, I believe that you choose to be you.
Hmm.
Now that not might not be like factually correct, because you are obviously an outcome of 10,000 things changing around you, your parents, your childhood,
Right.
whatever it is. But whenever I feel that something's not great in life, like this is not how it should be, I always try to say to myself that this is under your control, and
Hmm.
try to figure out a way to change this, rather than blaming others for the fact that I was not able to do this, I was not able to do that. I've seen people like that,
Hmm.
and I definitely don't want to be one of them. I also don't want to be just a bystander
Hmm.
where I see the things pass. And I know this is not factually or logically or correct on a first principle basis, being a rational person, but this is something that I keep telling myself, to change the status quo. If
Hmm.
something's not right, do something about it. it's
Right.
it's it's under your hand. Make an effort. And that just drives again every day, whether it is the company, whether it is personal challenges or ambitions or goal, sticks with me.
Yeah, it's a full circle, right? Like you said, it's the yin and yang. You got to keep
Yeah.
making those choices and those decisions and keep defining a new you pretty much
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
But this was awesome. Thanks for sharing these life lessons.
Oh,
And for our audience, we have an entire collection on onelifelifelessons.com. You can get them on LinkedIn or on Instagram or wherever you socialize on the internet. But thank you so much for making the time to be with us.
this was
Really
lovely.
happy for this journey that you're on and would love to have you back on, talk about more of these successes, phase two and phase three, and see how things are going.
Absolutely, I love this. I didn't even realize that this is over. Fantastic. Always a pleasure talking to you, Nitin.
Likewise, Parth. Thank you so much.
Thank you.